Hey, what's going on, guys? Mackenzie Long here. So, according to educationdata.org, there are 43.3 million people who currently have student loan balances. And I don't know if you know this or not, but the CARES Act actually expires the end of August 31st, 2022. And basically what that means is all these people who have been deferring their student loans, they are now going to have to start making payments on them. So what does that mean for the future of our economy and student loans? Now, since the CARES Act is ending in the end of August 2022, it's kind of interesting to see what might possibly happen. Now, I did a whole nother video on this, kind of the background of student loans and some of those things. You should go check out that video. I think it does a great job explaining kind of who holds the debt, explaining a little bit about student loans and what might happen into the future, if they would cancel student loans or if they wouldn't, and who would kind of be punished if they did. But let's look a little bit more into the economy in this video and kind of what this means for the American people. And we're seeing skyrocketing prices in everything. Our clients are seeing $200 to $600, maybe even $1,000 a month in increase in rent. They are seeing a huge difference at the gas pump, a couple $100s a month. We're seeing the cost of food and goods and things going up. They're saying it's 8.5%, but it sure feels like a lot more than that. The stock market is down, which means if you were using your 529 plan to pay for school, well, now you're paying with discounted money. Mortgages for first-time home buyers are pretty much out of reach. And to add on top of all of that, now the CARES Act is ending. So if people aren't tight enough as it is, now they're going to have an additional couple $100s a month that's going to be due if the CARES Act is not renewed. It feels like even now people are already at that breaking point. So what's going to happen when they have an extra $300, $400, $500, $600 a month in student loans that they need to pay back? Now, if you didn't know this happened or you forgot what happened with the CARES Act, basically what they did was they put a pause on student loans. They put a 0% interest rate on it. You didn't have to be paying your loan back during the pandemic. But now all of that is coming to an end. And so basically if you weren't making payments, it was not going into litigation. They weren't basically going after people or putting it on your credit report. But now, if they don't do anything about the CARES Act, at the end of August, that is going back in force. So we're now 18 months into this administration, and yet we have not seen anything actually happen about student loan forgiveness. And that was a huge topic of this administration's platform that they were running on. And so we already know 43.4 million people were basically given a permission slip that if they voted for him, that you would no longer have to pay your student loans, or at least that was the hope. Now, I go into detail if I think they will actually pay off student loans or what might particularly happen if they did in that other video, so definitely go check that out if you want more information. But I still find it kind of interesting that you could appeal to 43 million people by saying you're going to wipe out student loans and maybe or maybe not having an intent of actually doing it. And now we're adding on top of that, what was in place is actually expiring. So these 43 million Americans, I don't know how many of them actually had their student loans on pause, but I would say probably a majority of them. So all of these people are now going to have to be adding that to their monthly expenses. And I think that was a great thing for them to do. I think the CARES Act was awesome. It gave everybody the chance that while they were stuck at home, a lot of people were getting let go, income was kind of crazy. It gave people the opportunity to not have to pay on their student loans, give the chance for the economy to kind of rebound, that we could get out of the pandemic, that things would be ramping back up, the economy would be running again, people would be back to working, and now they could afford to do their student loans. However, we have not seen that actually come into play. With all of the things that I mentioned earlier, a lot of it doing with inflation, a lot of it doing with the stock market being down, the economy really has not come back as much as we would have liked to have seen. And a lot of what's stifling it seems to be a lot of these regulations. They're talking about increasing a lot of taxes. There's money that's going all over the world except for back into the US for some reason, into the billions and trillions of dollars of money that's being spent. It seems like almost weekly now, yet we can't seem to take care of our American citizens first, which is kind of interesting. Now, some people will say, well, what about the PSLF, the Public Service Loan Forgiveness? And I hadn't heard much about it, which was interesting because I actually was doing public service work even during the time. And so I was looking at it and I found an article by The Hill, and they said that that was actually put in place almost 15 years ago in 2007. And basically what the PSLF does, it allows that if you're in public service or if you're a nonprofit, basically if you work for the government, then you were able to go into a forgiveness program to be able to pay off your loans. Now, the challenge with that is there were about 9 people that were actually qualified that work in public service, that work for the government. And you had to work for the government to be able to qualify. Now, the challenge with that is only 15% of the people who actually are eligible have applied over the last 15 years. And the numbers get even worse than that. Part of it, there was an additional exclusion that if you could prove certain things that your loan would actually be forgiven. And it's only about 128,000 people that have totally been forgiven. The other remaining 15% of that 9 million are basically in a long-term payment plan over the next 10 years. Now, over the next 10 years, they're basically making those payments, and then whatever happens to be left over at the end of those 10 years, they basically don't have to pay the difference if there's anything left. So again, that goes back into the whole administration's platform of we are going to take care of student loans for people if you're willing to vote for us. So what is going to happen next? What will they do with student loans? Is it something they're actually planning on forgiving? Do they even have the power to forgive it? And if they do forgive the loans, who ends up fronting the bill for it? Because somebody is holding the debt, so who is not going to get paid back for the money that they've given? And that's what I cover in that other video that you might want to check out called Student Loans. I hope this was helpful for you in really understanding what's going on and hopefully maybe prepare you for some of the things that are going to be coming in the next couple months, that if you've had your student loan on forbearance and you haven't really been paying on it, that is going to be coming due. Now, there are ways to be able to get help with things like student loans and different debts, but I think it's important even now more than ever to understand what's going on in your own household as far as financial literacy goes. And it can be tough to think about financial literacy when you're being squeezed from what feels like all sides, and every time you feel like you're just barely getting a break, there's something else that's happening with this administration or this economy that's kind of kicking you in the butt again. And it seems like everybody's raising their prices on everything. It's costing more and it's taking longer to do anything. And so that puts a damper on a lot of people's financial situation, and it can feel very doom and gloom that you don't even want to necessarily look at it. And sometimes we would rather find comfort in doing other things and being distracted. But if you're kind of in that position where you want to do better with some of these things, it starts with your financial education and your financial literacy. And so down below, I have a course. It's based on the best-selling book, the best personal finance book that's ever been written. And it's called How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker. It's written by Tom Matthews and Steve Siebold, which are both great friends. And they do some fantastic work to make it very simple for even a teenager to understand, but also allows for the sophistication of adult to understand the concepts as well. It's a very easy read. I have a course that's on there. You can get it absolutely for free. It's if you use the coupon code 995 off, it's completely free. We've had lots of success with people going through that course. I think you will absolutely love it. And we also have a campaign coming up in the next week or so, which we are going to be giving away $50,000 worth of financial education books, because we really want to get this out to the masses. We want people to be able to understand these things. And now I don't know if there could be a better time for understanding these things if we ever want to get our economy back on track, if we ever want to get our country going again. So if that's something that might interest you, I'm going to put a link down below. It's going to be an application form. Basically, we want to do some qualifying before we send this material out. And so if you can fill out that form, give us some information for you, and obviously to verify that you're a real human and we're not just mailing expensive books all over the country for no reason. You do have to be in the US for us to mail you a book, because everything in the book is going to be based on US, not so much in Canada yet, although we're working on it. But if you're interested in getting a free copy of that book, make sure you fill out that form. It is going to ask you for some personal information, because obviously we have to know where to send the book, and I would also like to have a phone call with you from somebody of our team to make sure you're actually a real human being before we spend money on setting some of this stuff out. So if you are interested in that, something you might be interested in, fill out that form. We'd love to get in contact with you and see how we can get you the book the fastest way possible. And I hope this was helpful for you. Don't forget to hit the like button and also hit the subscribe as well. We've got some great information coming out around financial literacy. We've got some great stuff coming out around biblical principles around money and biblical principles around business. If those are things that you might be interested in, make sure you also hit the little bell next to the subscribe button. That way you get notices when this information actually comes out, instead of having to try to come back and surf through YouTube and figure out where it is and what's going on. It's way easier to do it that way. I hope this was helpful for you guys. And again, I will catch you later. Have a great day.